Hey there, how's going? Welcome to this tutorial video, and it is the second part of this mega series in programming in Core Java 0 to Hero. Those who are following along with me in this series, a big thank you for making it to here. And to those who have joined in this video to learn this much only, also deserves the thanks for choosing CodeBuddy. So that being said, let's get started. So in the last video of this series, we have learned how to set up our PC for Java environment, choosing the IDE, and also we knew how a Java program looks like and is compiled, and we also cleared fundamental and rudiment concepts in Java. If you haven't watched that yet, I would request you to do so if you need the above mentioned topics to be cleared. So in this video, we will be focusing on in-depth analysis of the Java program that we wrote in the last video, working with variables and data types. Get running to write our first very own Java program. So that being said, let's get started. The program we wrote in the last video looks something like this. Now you may be wondering, what are all these? So let's clear it out. Remember, every Java program starts with a class. And this is mandatory as Java is an object-oriented programming. Now what is this term, object-oriented programming? In object-oriented programming, we value about objects, which are instances of class. Now what are these instances of class? Now let me clear you. Simply speaking, if you have a document in hand and you want to have Xerox copies of that document, so the Xerox copy or the copies becomes the instances of the document. Here that document replicates class, and Xerox copy or the copies replicates objects. So by now, you might have guessed that there can be multiple objects of a single class. Very true, and I hope this understanding of objects and class is clear. So get back to this code. So every Java program should start with a class name, which is written as this class keyword followed by the name of the class you want to specify. For this program, we have used the class as test, but you can use it at any class name you may prefer. You may write your own name also in this place, but it is always preferable to mention the class name that sorts your need. Like, suppose you are doing an operation or a program on adding up numbers, then maybe your class name should be adding numbers or summation of numbers, like this, sum of numbers. I think this is a good way to practice how your class name looks the best. Whatever we write inside the class is the body of the class. So you have to understand everything you write should be inside this body of the class. If you write anything outside here, it is declared as invalid in Java. So everything you write should be inside a class. And that makes Java a very powerful language also, because it composes the entire thing and you cannot move away from the architecture. It holds its architecture very fine. Next, what we need to write to begin a Java program, like is a compulsory thing to write in a Java program. Now, what is this public static void main string args? This is preferably called as the main method. And you have to understand this. Whatever program you write, you may be writing 100 lines of code, but still your main method should exist to run the code. Yes, there are a single alternative only to run a program without the main method. That we will be discussing later on. But for the beginner level, and to start programming in Java, you have to get one thing very clear. Every Java program should have a main method. So this is the main method I'm talking about. And why this is main method? Because I'm writing main here, and this is the name of the method. And what is this method? A function inside a class is called a method. And now comes the question, what is a function? Now these functions are small blocks of codes which are designated to perform a specific task. For example, suppose we have a multiplication operation in our program in repeated fashion. Or suppose we want to find the factorial of all the numbers from 1 to 10. So is it really possible that for each and every number we perform the factorial? No, I don't think that's a good way. So instead what we do, we create a function block named as suppose factorial, or it completely depends on you. And then every time we call that function and it returns the factorial. This is a great way, right? This sounds interesting as well. We will see this action many more in our Java programs. It's just the beginning, so just bear with me. Now this is a system defined function. This is not user defined. You are not creating the name. If you write here, suppose factorial, as I am telling you, factorial, this won't work because this is a signature of a main method. And your Java program should have a main method to get it executed, otherwise it won't be executed. Now what about the other functions or the other methods, that how it gets called? It simply gets called, we have to call those methods. This main method gets called automatically when you start executing a Java program, because this main method is a starting point of a Java execution. Whenever we compile a Java program, it starts with this line of main method. So it's very important to mention this line, and without this line your program won't run. Next, what are all these terms prior to main? This entire line is known as the method definition. Now what all are contained in this method definition? We have an access specifier. This access specifier can be public, private and protected. Now what is this access specifier? Access specifier defines the visibility or the accessibility of a particular method. Suppose you want to make this class or this method accessible to all the files in the folder. In that case, public is the ideal. But you want to keep it private only to this particular class, then private is the option. But you want some other files within the same folder to access this method, then you may be using protected. So we'll get into access specifier later, but for the time being, just understand what is this public. So this public is an access specifier, which means that this main method can be accessed by any file in the computer. Next, we have the static. What is the static? The static is a modifier, which means that this main is of this class type. Now, what is this class type? In simple definition, a class type is nothing but a main method will be called automatically, and it need not to be called through an object. Because whenever we will be using other methods, we will be preferably calling that through objects or through inside the main method. But this main method is not getting called via a third-party source, but it is directly getting called whenever the class execution starts. So that's why we write static, so that no one can change this main method once it is in execution. Hope that is clear. Next, we have void. Now what is this void? This void is a return statement. A function should always contain a return statement. If it is void, it means it will not return anything. It will always print something. Remember, in this fashion. But it may have int, float or double, depending on the values it may return. But for this main method, we are not returning anything. We are printing out, and for the maximum purpose, we will be using this main method just to print out the final result. So the main method will probably contain void in my maximum of my videos. Next, we have this parenthesis, and inside the parenthesis we have a term string args, then the square brackets open close. What is the square bracket open close args? This is an array. This is how we declare an array. So this is a whole lot of topic in itself, so we'll cover array later. For the time being, just understand that this is an array of type string, and this is included inside this parenthesis to mention the Java only accepts string values. Whenever we input a value in a Java, it gets converted to a string automatically. That a Java program works with string arguments. Hope this entire function definition line is clear now, and if it's still not clear, I would suggest you to go back and forth and take your time, and I will be there waiting for you. Now we start the main block. This is the entire main block. Now you might have observed that a block starts with a curly brace and ends with a curly brace. A class starts over here and ends after everything is finished. So we close the curly brace over here. So a main block starts here, and we write the curly brace to open the starting of a block. Since our job here is to just print something on the screen, so we will be using here a printing statement in Java, which is system.out.println. Now we can be using system.out.print as well. Now what is the difference between system.out.println and system.out.print? We will see that in action right now. Now for system.out.println, maybe I am copying this line. You just copy this line and we paste it over here. So what results we will be getting? We will be getting hello CodeBuddy, hello CodeBuddy. Now let's see what exactly we get, and probably we have saved it. Yes, we did. Now as we compile the Java program, we write Java C, then test.java to compile for errors. Once that's done, now we'll execute the class file. The name of the class file is also test. So we write Java test, and we see hello CodeBuddy, hello CodeBuddy. So println prints each and every statements in a new line. Now what is the difference between print? Print, on the other hand, prints each and every statements on the very line. Now suppose I want to print same thing again. Instead, I'll be using print and also another print statement. So let's see what really comes out. And we again compile this. Once compiled, we can now run the class file. And yes, that's what we expected. The first two hello CodeBuddy comes from a println statement, but the second two CodeBuddy come from a print statement. And print, as I told, that it prints it on the same line. Now you may be asking me that this hello CodeBuddy should be printed on this after the end of this line, but why is it not so? And the reason for that is, when we're writing println, it is creating a new line character like this after the end of each statement. So if we head over to a terminal, this hello CodeBuddy has a next line over here, and that's why it prints the next system.println hello CodeBuddy from here, and it also has a new line over here, and next it incurs print. So print has no new line character at the end of a string, so it prints out hello CodeBuddy and then hello CodeBuddy. I hope that is very much clear to you now. After all things are done, we'll just close the brace of the main and eventually close the brace of the class, and we are good to go. So once you are able to figure out all the stuffs that we have discussed in the first video, and now you're able to clear the things out, do drop a comment in the comment section below. And if you have a doubt, also do drop comment in the comment section below. I'll be there to answer in no time. And I hope now you can start writing a Java program by your own, as I promised earlier. So after that, we will focus our attention to variables. What are variables? It is a kind of a container inside which we store values, which may be changed in future. We use variables in programs whenever we are working with values and a program is full of values. Whenever we assign a value to a variable, that variable allocates a memory location in the Java heap memory. So a variable can be any name. Preferably it should be meaningful and cannot start with a number. So when I say any name, it can be A, it can be B, or it can be C. But preferably what I would suggest that to write a variable name according to your needs. Now for example, I want to store a name, so I would be writing my underscore name. And to that I'll be assigning the value of, suppose, Jimmy. That's it. And I end the statement in a Java with a semicolon. Fine, we're good to go. But still, there are some problems. This will create an error. What error? Because this Jimmy is the value. This is a string. That value is assigned to this variable. Now, whenever we want to access Jimmy, we can simply use this term my name, and this variable will fetch you the value Jimmy. Now, as I have mentioned, that this statement will create an error. Why? Because the data type is not mentioned. Now we have to mention explicitly to Java what kind of data we are storing to this value. Now for an example, this is a string type. To store string type, we use a data type that is string. So this is my variable name, and I'm assigning the Jimmy to this variable name of what? Of string type. This is how we tell it. Now suppose we want to assign a non-fractional numbers to a variable. Suppose my variable name is my num, and I want to assign non-fractional parts like 5. I want to assign 5 to it. To assign 5 to my num, what is this type? This is non-fractional, and we use non-fractional as int data type. After that, suppose we want to assign a fractional part, a small fractional part, so we use float type. And suppose this variable name becomes my fraction, and suppose we assign 5.787. Okay, so I have written 487, so it's 787 basically, and we end it with a semicolon. After that, if we want to assign a fractional part greater than 6 decimal points, then we use double. Okay, so double, this is long fraction, this variable name, and we assign suppose 8.224455 and 68. Fine. After that, suppose we want to assign a character. A character can be suppose H. Yes, it's a character. We want to assign it to a variable named suppose my char. Very good. And the data type we use here is char. So char is used to assign character data types. Fine. So I hope the data types are getting clear to you. After that, we can print them and see the result. What do we get on the screen? We use system.out.println. Now we know to print, we write system.out.println, and we want to write integer equal to, what is the integer value that we have stored is 5, and it is stored in mynum. We want to print out integer equals 5. How can we do that? As I have mentioned that whenever we want to access this value, we want to call the variable name. So integer equal to mynum, and hopefully that will work. No, that won't work. And I suppose you might have guessed that already. Now why it won't work? This is because what I've told that whatever you write inside this double quotes will be printed out. That means, okay, so now let's see what is the possible outcome of this Java program. Let's see. We don't need the rest of the part, so unwanted things let's remove for the time being. These are the unwanted things, so just we will not remove, we'll just comment it for the time being, and we'll see in the latter part what happens. Okay, so we open the command line, and after that we type in the same thing as we have done already, javac test.java, and then we want to print out what's the result. The class name is Java, and then we compile it using Java. Integer equal to mynum, but what was expected? Integer equal to 5. So as I mentioned that everything that inside the code is printed out. So in this way, you can print what you desire. Now after this, you can add concatenation symbol of plus, and then you can write mynum. In this way, you can print the variable along with the result on the screen. Now let's check it out for once more. Let's compile and then run. Integer equals 5. That's what was expected, right? So now we are starting to work with operations in Java. We'll do more. Now after that, we want to create some arithmetical operations. So let's create a variable double sum, and to it I want to add two variables. For that, let's create another two variables like double var1. Var1 says 5.64 and double var2 says 8.65. Now we want to calculate the summation of these two variables. How can I do this? We can just do var1 plus var2 and end it with a semicolon. This value will be stored to a variable sum. Now since these two are double, so the outcome will also be in double, so use the data type double over here. Okay, and after that we want to print out the result. Let's see what the result shows. We just copy paste this line, and then sum equals, now the sum is stored in a variable known as sum, and we save this. Hopefully that works. Let's check it out. Fine, and we execute it, and the sum is the result over here. So now we know how to work with arithmetical operations. Similarly, we can perform multiplication, subtraction, division as well, and also modulus. We will be discussing in a different video about the various arithmetical operations that we can perform, but for this tutorial we are confining our discussion to the variables, data types and their values, and eventually calculating with some operations on it. So finally, I want to create a product variable, and I want to store here the product of var1 with var2. We use a normal multiplication sign and end it with a semicolon. Now you may be thinking, how can I concatenate more? Now this is the way I'll be doing it. Sum is equal to this, and after that we concatenate again with a string that product is equals product. This is the variable name. So after that we save this, and hopefully we have the result on the screen. So we compile first and then we execute. So we have the sum there, product here. We can just create a bit of spaces in between just start like this and a bit of space will be created. That is completely aesthetic views. You can change according to your fashion. You can print it in new line, and that's it. The result on the screen. So I hope this makes a lot of sense. So by the end of this tutorial, I promised you that you will be able to understand to code and able to write your first program. And I hope you are good to go. So in this tutorial, we've covered in-depth analysis of the previous code that we've written and got up and running with the variables, data types and values, and also you guys will be able to create your own program. I hope this is it for this video, and thanks for bearing it with me. Catch you up in the next part. It's time to sign off. Take care. Spread love and enjoy coding. And if you do find this video useful and learned what I shared, do like this video then. And if you find it interesting, this channel interesting, and sort your needs, don't forget to subscribe CodeBuddy. As here, I will be putting up courses and series on programming languages like Python, Java, and also trending technologies, and teach you many applications under web and software development. And if you want your friends also to learn this part and to be a part of this mega series, then do share as well. Express your emotions in the comment section, because your support means a lot. Thanks, and stay connected to CodeBuddy.